Kagaya, despite his declining health, acknowledged the significance of the moment. He spoke with a weak but determined voice, as Amane held his arm, describing Muzan's appearance to him with a careful and precise tone. According to Amane, Muzan appeared as a man in his mid to late 20s, yet his eyes were a striking light pink color and his pupils were vertical and cat-like. Kagaya was taken aback by the description, knowing instinctively that Muzan's arrival had been inevitable. Muzan, in turn, was not pleased with Kagaya's current state, clearly disappointed to see the head of the family responsible for his constant roadblocks now so sickly and weakened. He drew attention to Kagaya's sickly and unsightly appearance, noting the scent of a corpse lingering about him. Kagaya, acknowledging the truth in Muzan's words, confirmed his condition had been dire, stating that his doctor had given him only a few days to live 6 months prior, and yet he had continued to persevere. His doctor was at a loss for words, and Kagaya confessed that it was solely his enduring desire to defeat Muzan that had kept him alive for this long. This revelation did not impress Muzan, who coldly stated that Kagaya's relentless ambition would soon come to an end once he was killed. Kagaya then explained that they both came from the same bloodline, with Muzan having been born over 1,000 years ago. He revealed that the Ubuyashiki family had been cursed because it had given birth to a monster like Muzan. Children born into the family were prone to die prematurely after birth, and as the clan neared extinction, a priest had advised them. The priest had informed them that the clan could only survive by dedicating themselves to hunting down the demon born from their bloodline. The Ubuyashiki family also began to marry the daughters of priests, hoping that it would reduce the risk of their children dying early, though it did not entirely eliminate the curse. No one in the clan had lived past the age of 30. Muzan, unimpressed and dismissive, mocked the Ubuyashiki family's curse history as irrelevant nonsense, expressing that it made him want to gag, questioning if Kagaya's illness had clouded his thinking. He asserted that he had never faced any divine retribution for killing thousands of humans, and that throughout his life of over 1,000 years, he had never seen any gods or Buddha intervene. Kagaya, recognizing Muzan's perspective but still maintaining his own beliefs, explained that he too had a way of thinking. He asked Muzan about what he had been dreaming of for the last 1,000 years. The demon, however, did not immediately answer and instead noted an odd feeling he was experiencing. Despite being in the presence of the leader of the Demon Slayer Corps, Muzan did not feel any hate towards him. To his right, he observed as Kagaya's 2 daughters, Nichika and Hinaki, continued to play blissfully, seemingly unaware of his presence. Muzan found a strange sense of familiarity and relief, to his disgust, and looked around to count a total of 4 humans present in the mansion. Kagaya, sensing Muzan's thoughts, offered to answer his question, and declared that Muzan dreamed of immortality, which caught the demon's attention. Muzan acknowledged Kagaya's response and added that he would achieve his dream once he obtained Nezuko, only for Kagaya to defiantly challenge his claim, stating that his dream would never be realized. Muzan believed Kagaya was being overconfident in hiding Nezuko and told him that unlike him, he would have all the time in the world to find her. Kagaya continued by explaining that Muzan was misunderstood, as he knew what true eternity was. It was the will and feelings of people, and only it could exist forever. Muzan, disregarding the idea as rubbish, professed that the words sickened him, to which Kagaya responded by elaborating that the Demon Slayer Corps had never been eradicated for the past 1,000 years. Despite the numerous deaths of its members, it had endured and still survived. The Corps itself was the irrefutable proof of what he was dismissing as impermanent. No one has ever forgiven Muzan for the countless deaths he has caused over the past 1,000 years. The Demon Slayers are enraged by his cruelty, and they are determined to make sure he never escapes. Kagaya believes that Muzan is now facing the wrath of all demons, and he thinks that his own death will not have much of an impact on the Demon Slayer's Corps. However, he is grateful to be respected and loved by the Hashira, and he believes that his death will only make them even more determined to keep fighting against Muzan and the demons. In a previous meeting between the Hashira, they discussed the lack of protection for the Oyakata, Kagaya Ubuyashiki. Senemi proposed that at least 2 Hashira should be guarding him, but Gyome explained that nothing can be done, as the Oyakata has always refused to have guards and considers the Hashira too valuable to use as his personal protection. Shinobu adds that none of the other family heads of the Ubuyashiki family has ever had bodyguards, which concerns the other hashira. The hashira race through the forest, led by their Kasugai crows. In the distance, they catch a glimpse of the Ubuyashiki mansion. Sanemi remains hopeful that they can reach it in time, but a tremendous explosion engulfs Kagaya, Amane, and Muzan in flames, destroying the entire mansion. As numerous explosives are detonated, burning the surroundings and enveloping Muzan in anger, he gazes at the Oyakata and his wife in their final moments. The fireball rises high into the sky and is witnessed by the arriving hashira, causing them all to be horrified. Tanjiro is stunned by the scent of explosives, burning blood and flesh. The explosion throws Muzan back into agony, and he begins to heal himself, regrowing his limbs and cursing Kagaya as he heals. He remembers the Oyakata's last moments, his face curved into a Buddha-like smile even as he took his own life and that of his wife and 2 daughters in a tragic explosion. Despite underestimating the Oyakata, Muzan realizes the extent of his cunning deceit. Muzan regenerates his damaged limbs, hindered further by the numerous makibishi that Kagaya had prepared to increase their lethality and lengthen his healing time. Despite this, Muzan senses the presence of the hashira, who are gathering to his location, knowing that Kagaya has prepared more surprise attacks. Suddenly, glowing red orbs appear and hover around Muzan, and then transform into giant red thorns that pierce his body, pinning him down and completely immobilizing him. Confused, he realizes that the objects are a blood demon art known as flesh seeds. Thinking to himself, he wonders who could be behind this attack. He tries to absorb the thorns to free himself, but is stabbed by something in his stomach. He looks down to see Tamayo standing there and questions her presence. Tamayo reveals that the blood demon art belongs to the man that Muzan transformed in Asakusa. Muzan notices talismans tied to Tamayo, realizing that she had been concealing herself with a blood demon art of concealment. Muzan asks her why she's there, and she reveals the truth. She had a drug that turns demons back into humans, and she had put it inside the thorn Muzan absorbed earlier. She tells him that the drug is perfected, which has changed the situation. And when Muzan pierces his thumb into her head, she tearfully responds that she never wanted to transform into a demon, and that she only wanted to survive her illness. However, Muzan reminds her that she killed many more humans after transforming, insinuating that she enjoyed devouring them as well. Infuriated, Muzan pierces her eye and mocks her, claiming that her grudge against him is misplaced. Ayo does not deny that she is killed in her desperation, and to atone for her sins, she will die with Muzan, before calling out for Gyome's assistance. Realizing his predicament, Muzan is unable to move and can only watch as Gyome arrives thanks to the hidden talismans from Yushiro. He winds his flail and attacks, releasing the spiked weight, and the force of the blow completely pulverizes Muzan's head. Gyome reflects on his first meeting with Kagaya, when he was 18 and Kagaya was 14. He found it surprising that someone with such a delicate and fragile presence was 4 years younger than him. Kagaya acknowledged that Gyome had been fighting for the sake of others, and assured him that he was not a murderer. Touched by his acknowledgement of his innocence, Gyome knelt down and cried as Kagaya comforted him, remembering that Kagaya had always said what people wanted to hear in the moment, and his solemnity had remained unchanged throughout their countless interactions. During their last meeting, Kagaya predicted Muzan's arrival in 5 days, and when asked about his certainty, he simply replied that it was his intuition. Gyome reflects on Kagaya's extraordinary intuition, known as foresight. The ability to see into the future enabled the Ubuyashiki clan to avoid numerous crises and amass great fortune. Knowing that the others will not agree with his plan, Kagaya asks Gyome to follow his final instruction. Gyome is reluctant but understands, and Kagaya expresses gratitude, hoping that fewer precious demon slayers will lose their lives in the upcoming battle. Tanjiro and the others were about to launch an attack on Muzan when they suddenly found themselves plunged into the sprawling Infinity Castle. Muzan boasts that he will kill every demon slayer present that night. Tanjiro defiantly responds, vowing to hunt Muzan down no matter what it takes.